let me give you a little bit of background. I always like to just say we're going to have a little bit of fun. I was born a very small child. This is my background a little bit here. So there we go. In 1990, I went to work for the FDIC. Now that afforded me a very great opportunity of being literally in hundreds of banks. Every week or every 2 weeks, I was in a different organization. And I got to see how Bank A versus Bank B versus Bank C did the same thing. And it wasn't just auditing them from safety and soundness and compliance and all those things. I actually enjoyed watching how people managed, and I just was a student of that. In 1993, I started a company called Bankers Compliance Consulting and got to, in a sense, start managing people. Let me step outside of that. I enlisted in the Army in 1984. I went to college, came back into the Army as a lieutenant, grew up to be a commander of a unit out of Norfolk. I had a chance to manage about 130 people that way. Whole different management style. The old don't let them see you sweat, charge the hill, we might all die is a different leadership style than come in today and let's have fun at work and things like that. So, seen that. I've been involved in the economic development of Central City until just a couple years ago. I was on that board for 9 years. I've been on several church boards. I love organizations and I love getting involved with other people and doing team types of things. And this has become a passion of mine, but let me back up a little bit. I sucked as a leader at Bankers Compliance Consulting. I really did. And it's a daily struggle for me, in a sense, to lead and to create culture. So this is a passion of mine, not that I can tell you, if you push button A and push button B, you'll get C. It is a constant in the trenches kind of thing. So I've given you a packet. I'd love to have you. I know you're all eating, things like that. We've given you a pen. I'm going to ask you to write some things down. I want you to jot some notes. I'm going to ask you at the end to share some things with me. But I want you to know that this is a never-ending struggle, but yet extremely important. In fact, what I'd like to get is, why is this company better than that company? So I'm going to go back to 2008. I had kind of a life-changing experience. And I realized that I really was not a good leader. We had a revolving door of employees coming through our company. If you could fog a mirror and were looking for a job, I would hire you. It's kind of what my motto was. Oh, you fogged a mirror, you passed, come join us. And people would last 3 to 6 months because I was a hard charging, go out, kill it, drag it back to the cave kind of guy. And I was hiring people that weren't necessarily lined up with me in that mentality. And so I realized I needed to change in my hiring practices, who I'm looking for. I needed to create a culture. I needed to be very intentional about this. But what I started doing then was interviewing different bank presidents at first, because I knew them. I had several hundred as clients, and I said, hey, this one's really good. And I said, if I buy you lunch, will you spend an hour with me? And I started talking to these bank presidents and sometimes chairman of the board and saying, why is your bank good? What do you do different? Now, this is 2008. Nobody used the word culture then. We might have had value statements and mission statements and core beliefs, but nobody really used the culture or organizational health. But the number one thing I got from everybody was communication. We have to have good communication, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. Then I started branching outside of the banks and saying, by the way, did you turn that on? Good. That's good. You don't need to worry about this because it won't pick you up probably, but I want snippets of this that I'm going to use. So anyway, so don't stop talking or asking questions or something because you're being videotaped. We can edit it out if you say something you don't like. So, okay, back to this. Sorry, squirrel. I do that a lot, by the way. Where was I at? I started talking to other people that were outside of banking and just saying, this seems like a great company. And I really interviewed over 100 different people. I wish I would have wrote a book at that time, because now this is a very common book that you'll find is organizational health and culture. But what's the difference between Bank A and Bank B, or Organization A and B? Why is this one good? They all have access to quality talent. They all really have information. It's so fast anymore, isn't it? I mean, you can't say we get information faster than our competitors. I really doubt it. It really comes down to this thing called culture. Organizational health. Now you might go, what is that? And this is where I'm not going to repeat everything I did 2 years ago. I'm going to give you a very quick buzzword. But think about where you've worked, things that you've been involved in. Maybe it's the Chamber of Commerce here. You're on the board for that, or different things, or church boards, or your family. Right? There's a culture in your family. There really is. And think about your experiences. Some of them have been great, and some of them you're like, I would never want to go back there again. Right? We were just so dysfunctional. Don't raise your hand if you're talking about your family in that sense, right? But there really are. There are dysfunctional organizations and there are very functioning organizations. And the difference is this culture. So what is culture? It's not posters on the wall, I can tell you that. It is really let me back up a little bit. You have a culture. Whether you recognize it or not, there is one. At every organization you're involved in. There is a culture in your family. There's a culture at your work. There's a culture at your church. There's a culture in every civic organization. The question is it good or bad? Okay? I like to say it this way. Alan Weiss is a consultant to consultants, and he said it's the beliefs that govern our behavior. That's one way of putting it. I recently came across this, and I love this. You might want to write this down if you like that. A lot of us worry about our brand, right? We have a logo. We have certain colors, Pinnacle Bank, right? You have certain ways that diamond has to be. That thing cannot be on the left or on the right. It has to be, right? And there's letterhead that has to have this and this font and all this, right? Archer credit unions, things like that. We worry about that. And we talk about taglines. If you called us and said, what do you do for a living, Dave? I say, we take complicated regs and turn them into plain English. We recently had a marketing company that interviewed something like 30 of our clients. 30 for 30 said, what does Bankers Plan Consulting do? They said they take complicated regs and turn it into plain English. I was like, sweet, that's our brand. Your soul is the culture. I love that. I didn't come up with this. I have to give credit to somebody else. So it's just how we operate. I'm going to back up. A few years ago, GM had the safety recall. It was a congressional report done. Largest fine at the time for that type of thing, $2.4 billion, I believe GM got fined for the safety recall. And the congressional report, I actually read it, said that they have posters up that says safety first, safety first, safety first. But safety is not first. That's lip service. What we found when we talked to manager and we talked to employees was bottom line dollars was first and safety was third. So don't tell me if we put up a fancy poster in the break room that that's going to create culture. It's how we behave. It's how we operate. So why is that important is really what I want to get to. And this I'm going to give credit to as well. Talked about this 2 years ago if you were here, a little repeat. There's a guy named Patrick Lencioni. If you want to read more about this, if you want to study this topic, I'm going to tell you Patrick Lencioni is the guy. Tablegroup.org is his website. He came up with this linear thing that said SMART. You have a chief marketing officer, right? You probably have at 5 you have CFO, I'm assuming, right? You have different people at different companies that are the C-suite, we like to call them, that are in charge of these types of things that say, this makes us smart. So what is healthy? It's things like we don't have politics. We don't worry about confusion because well, we do worry about confusion. We're communicating all the time. Our morale is high. We have fun at work. Our productivity is good. Our turnover. If you're turning over people, it's really hard to be productive because you're constantly training people, right? And they don't know exactly the vision, the mission, and you have to pound those. So Lencioni put together this formula that said smart plus healthy equals success. Now this guy probably makes millions of dollars. He's wrote numerous #1 books on this topic, and I'm going to tell you I disagree with him. And I go, really? It is not smart plus healthy. It is smart times healthy, and that's the only thing I'll disagree with him. It is an exponential thing. That if we start working on these things, this stuff just gets better. It just happens. And this is where I'm going to stop with this. I could go on for hours. That might be boring for you. Let me put it another way. Somebody else that I respect, Peter Drucker, probably one of the best strategists, and he came out and said that culture eats strategy for breakfast several years ago. All right, one more thing on this. Culture is not a checklist. I'm going to pick on you banking kind of people here for a minute, right? We're left brain logical people. Oh, gee, let's go to the computer people in the room too, right? We're pretty left brain. Is that fair? Okay. Enough that I often say the people in my industry are anally left-brained. They really are. The compliance officers in the banks are the anal of the left brain, and they're all shaking their head yes, right? So we like to have checklists. And if you tell me, Dave, this is what you do, man, I will run that formula. I will run that formula to the death. In fact, let me give you the analogy. I take it very serious that as a husband that Karen, my wife, knows that I love and honor and cherish her. So every morning when I wake up, I look over at her and I say, babe, I love you. And I grab my notepad and I check that off. Okay, ladies, don't throw anything at me, but you follow me? That's not going to get it done. Is that fair? This is the same kind of thing. Culture, working on your organizational health, is not a checklist, yet there are things to do, but it's just a way, again, your soul, it's your lifestyle, it's how we operate. That's what you have to think about. So this is never going to be something that you can say, well, how much do we need to work on that? It's something that you'll just be in the trenches every day. How many of you have flown Southwest Airlines? Okay, let me do it the other way. How many have never flown Southwest? Okay, just a few of you. If you haven't flown Southwest, I'm going to show you a video. We don't have time to watch the whole thing, but you'll get the idea. Their number one mission statement is, we have fun. Let me explain that to you. This is the safety briefing. Are you getting the idea? But I want you to catch this a minute. Not so much what she's saying. The next time they show the aisle, look at all the passengers. What are they doing? Paying attention. Who pays attention in a safety briefing on an airline? Really, raise your hand if you do. Everybody is paying attention. Now, is that not deadly serious what she's talking about? If we crash, here's what we got to do. Admit it, for those of you that fly, Barry, you fly often, I imagine some of you fly. Do you really watch the safety briefing? Raise your hand. I feel bad for them, so I kind of look up, but I'm certainly not paying attention, and I really wish they would get on so I can get back to my iPad or whatever I'm supposed to be doing. Nobody pays attention to this. Okay? They said, we're going to have fun, and what they did is created an environment where people actually pay attention to the thing that really matters the most. That's what's going to happen in the case of a really serious accident here. So, when they implemented this, they actually had a disgruntled customer that wrote a letter to the FAA, their regulator, and copied them on it that said, this is way too serious. There's no way you should be doing that kind of thing. This is a serious safety briefing. We can't be joking around during it. The core belief of Southwest Airlines, number one, is we have fun. In other words, it's something they're willing to be punished for. The president of Southwest Airlines, I would expect, probably would have wrote her a letter, said, I'm so sorry. Here's a $100 gift certificate. Fly with us again, right? He'd be compromising their core value. Instead, he wrote her a letter that had 3 words in it. I've actually seen this. It's hanging in their lobby of their corporate office. It says, we'll miss you. Serious. We're not for everybody, is what Southwest says. We're going to have fun, and if you don't line up with that, be gone. We don't care. Go away. This is who we line up with, and people love us. They're satisfactory for those. Some people hate Southwest because they line up different, right? And you may not like that. You don't have assigned seats. There's a whole different style. And if you don't like that, that's fine. They're okay with that. There are other places you can fly. If you like this, by the way, YouTube Southwest Airlines safety briefings. There are not 1,000. There are thousands of these. This is what they do, and they have fun with it. So you might be saying, Dave, all right, I get it. Culture's important. This is how we operate, that kind of thing. How do we get healthy? Let me ask you all a question. What role does the conductor of an orchestra do? What sound do they make? I shouldn't say it that way. What sound do they make? Didn't you go to the orchestra to hear them? Who came to watch his backside, right? What sound does he make? And the answer is none. But what does the conductor do? He creates unity. I love this analogy. If you think about music, which I love music, I play several instruments, I love to sing. Who wants to do monotone unity unison? That's pretty boring. Unison is really boring. You've got people on your team, right, that are different. And some of you might go, well, they're really different. Some are sitting next to you, so we won't look at them right now, but they're different kind of people. In an orchestra, you have violins and cellos, and you have drums, and you have brass and things, right? You have all sorts of different. And some are playing and some are not. Some are beating it faster than others, but the tempo is the same, right? We're all starting at the same time and we're ending at the same time. This is the same sheet of music we're playing from. You follow me? Do you get the analogy? That's what unity is about. It's not unison that we operate exactly the same, that we all act the same. There's beauty in the harmony, if you will, that you have a different skill set than I do, that you do things different, better than I am. I'm no good at this. That's why I hired you, because you're really good at this, and I need you to do these things, and then together we're better. That's what unity is all about. Now, there's a lot of small businesses in this room. One of the things when I first started Bangor Consulting is I hired people exactly like me because I knew how I operated. I think it'd be easy to communicate with those kind of people if they're like me, and we killed each other, right? But I owned the company, so I wasn't leaving. They were. That's really the bottom line to it. And what I found is when I started finding people that were different than me, that were talented, and then I explained to them, here's the vision, here's the place we're going, this is what we're doing, and I communicate that over and over to them, that it got so much better. In fact, I'm going to brag just a little bit. We hired a company called Taro out of Des Moines, Iowa. If you're not familiar with Taro, they are a train the trainer in a lot of different areas. How to eat properly. I know that sounds funny. Formal dining is one of their courses. Public speaking. But they also do a lot of behavioral stuff. We brought them in to do the Myers-Briggs on everybody in our team and then help us to play well together, if you will. And the owner, the president of Taro came in, Rose is her name, and Rose said at that time we had 9 team members. And she said, Dave, I have never seen a company this small with this many different kinds of people. If you know anything about Myers-Briggs, there are 16 different squares or personalities or behaviors, if you will. We had 8 of those out of 9 people. In other words, there were 2 of us in the same square. That was it. Happens to be my right arm guy that if I die, he takes over the company. Not a bad guy to have like you, if you will, so that there's a continuation in the same spirit. But there's 8 of us, different personalities out of 9. And I didn't do that. I mean, it wasn't like I knew that. It was like, that's awesome. That's what I've been trying to do, is hire different kind of people. A lot of people say it as a joke, business is great until you have to deal with people, right? Whether it be customers or employees or things like that. Because we're different. So unity becomes even more important. So what I want to talk to you about for the next 25 to 35 minutes is, what do we do with unity? Let's talk about these enemies. So I'm going to attack this and say, these are the things that you want to address. And you've got this outline. Number 1 is the most important thing. I told you 2008 as I went around to 100 different presidents at banks. It's poor communication. I've never met anybody that said, they just communicate too much at that company. I cannot stand it, right? What do we hear all the time? The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, right? And it just seems like the bureaucracy of this. We just can't seem to be on the same page. You might even have that internally. So communication, we're going to talk about gossip. I'm going to give you a whole different definition for these things. Unresolved disagreements, having problems among team members, lack of a shared purpose, and sanctioning competence. So let me go to each one of these. Number 1, I mentioned, poor communication. Now, I see this as not just a leader thing. So do not duck out and say, well, I'm not the boss. I'm not the manager. We need to go both ways with communication. Think of this statement. Let people know what's going on, good or bad. Now that's from top down, but I cannot manage what I don't know. So I have to have information provided to me. I need information to flow up all the time. Okay? At Bangor Consulting, we do 2 things that really battle this on a weekly basis. Monday morning, we have a thing called a Monday morning meeting. Most of our people are scattered throughout Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska, so we're not all together. We get together virtually on a video type of thing. But if we were all in the same place, I would have everybody stand and have this meeting. Because it's going to be 5 minutes. We're not sitting down having a long, boring meeting. What's going on this week with you? Where are you at? What are you doing? What are you working on? Boom. What are you doing? And that's what we do. We go through, and Mindy actually conducts that meeting for us. She has a checklist of things that she's running through that says report in, report in, report in. I might go, whoa, it sounds like you're a little overwhelmed. Is it possible we could shift some things over? But for the most part, it's just, this is what I got going on. It also helps each one of our team members do what I call A1 steak sauce. You might go, what? I'm real big on Tuesday night, before I go home, I write down what's most important to happen Wednesday for me. And so these are the things I've got to get done Wednesday. So there's my A list, my B list, and my C list, if you will. And then of my A lists, one of them's got to be 1. That's A1, steak sauce, right? So then there's 2 and 3. So when I come in, the first thing I'm going to do on Wednesday morning is A1. And then A2 and A3. And I'm a task-driven guy. That's what works for me. I'm not saying that has to be for you. But that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about at the MMM, the Monday morning meeting. Who's going to take calls till 5 o'clock, right? Because we have people that are varying in their time schedule. And where are you at? And what's going on? How can we help you? So that's information just being shared, and that creates unity. The other half of our formula is every Friday, everybody on our team reports to their direct supervisor through a weekly report. They literally write out, now this is not bureaucracy. Tell you what, Mindy, what do you write out? Tell me the time. Okay, maybe I shouldn't do this to you, but I'll have you add passions, frustrations.
From the week,
Say again. Accomplishments. What'd you get done? Now, I'm not asking you, did you earn your pay? Are you worthy to work here next week? That's not the point. But it's what'd you get done? What frustrated you? Opportunities. And we define that as I was able to talk to this client or a brand new client and the existing client about a new thing they didn't know about. Cross-selling, if you will. We had a brand new client that called in, and we celebrate those kind of things. And then I asked them, if you'd like, share something personal. And I've had people say, my dog died. You don't have to go there. That's pretty important to me as a leader, though. That if you'll share those kind of things with me, then I can connect with you on a whole different level. Because if I see that Minnie's dog died, Monday morning I'm probably going to go talk to her about her dog, right? Because this isn't just business. We're doing life together. And so people share those kind of things. Now, when they write out those weekly reports to their direct supervisor, it also engages their brain on this is what purpose, this is what I got done, or you know what, I really had a sucky week. I didn't get much done. Sometimes can be, I was frustrated, and those kind of things come up. So I can only manage what I know, and I need good communication. Let people know what's going on, good or bad. That's up and down is what I'm pointing out. There's another side to communication though, and let's just say that I decide we're going to do A. And I say at the next meeting, we're going to do A. By God, that's it, because I'm the leader, we're going to do A. When people get to unload their opinions and feelings, instead, if I said, how about if we do A? Or does anybody else have a different idea? Here's the problem. When people get to unload and say, I disagree, or, oh, okay, I can go along with that, or maybe, when they give me their opinions on things, even if we don't do what they decided, they're probably more likely to buy in to what they could voice into. You follow me? If I just slam it down your throat and say, this is what we're doing, shut up, and because you work here and I pay you, that could work. But if I can put it out, and one of the things I personally had to do, I'm a very fast decision maker. I'll go back to the military. We're going to attack that hill or we're going to retreat. If we stand here, we die. That was most of the training I had, was we have to make decisions. Even if they're wrong, make a decision. That doesn't have to work that way in business. Most of the time it isn't life or death whether you rent that building or this building in Central City, right? You can sit on things for a little bit and you can make decisions over time. And if you value your team and say you have a different perspective and you have a different perspective and you have a different perspective and you have different filters. So if I introduce this, how does that look to you guys? If I can get you to buy in, then you're probably more, or to voice in, then you're more likely to buy in.
Dave?
Yes, thank you.
Find out young people, millennials, are more that way than older people? Or
I'm going to tell you my opinion is this millennial, that I'm an X, that you're a this, is a bunch of crap. I do not buy these stereotypes. It is really, really dangerous, I think, to label people that way.
Right.
I have some extremely successful, intelligent millennials on our team, if you want to label them as that. I don't see any difference between them and others. Now, are there, what's Generation X and Y? What's the other ones? Can you think of, help me out?
Z,
okay, right. X, Y, millennial, whatever, right? Are not the old people more mature and wiser for the most part? Why? Because they're old. They've been around a while. When I was 20, I wanted things done right now as well. And I said, and there's all the stereotype that millennials have to have performance right now. And so I think if you hire the right people, I don't care when you were born, do you see the dream and you see the passion? And I've got to communicate. That's on me. And then don't let them in. So I'm going to go off a little tangent here, Barry. I'm glad you did this. I see my job is not to run Bangor Swine Consulting as much as it is to protect our culture. An analogy I give is that we have a corral of stallions. My job is to not let any donkeys into the corral. I try to be a little fun with that. I was supposed to be humorous, so if you got that right. But we do, how long is the interviewing process, Mindy and Shannon? A long time. Months. Yours was 3 months, would that be fair? Mindy? About 3? Okay. Most of our consultants are 6 months. Some of them are a year between when I start talking to them before I offer them a job. You might go, are you crazy? 27 to 30 interviews. Why? I'm waiting for you to go, ee-aw. Here's what I tell everybody when they first come to us. If you come to work here, it's like we're going to get married without the intimacy. I told them that at the very beginning. Don't you spend a lot of time together? Is that fair? Do you spend a lot of time together? Maybe more than you do with your spouse. Is that fair? Shouldn't you like the people you work with? So to me, I've got to, and I told you anal, right? I told you there's a checklist. I'm extreme on that. I have a brother that runs the largest co-op in the nation out of York, Nebraska, the Central Valley. He says we do one interview. It's all day. It's 8 hours or 12 or 14. But it's one interview. I don't know if I like that style because I feel like if I would have met my wife and on the first date had to make a decision whether I'm going to marry her or not, now my brother would say, you're not marrying him, you're going to work for him. And he's very fast to fire people. I don't fire people. It's rare. It's very rare because we just don't have that. We're such a strong filter to get in. So not saying that has to work for you, but back to your, I think you asked me millennial and I went off on that. I don't like the whole stereotypes. I don't think it's accurate. It's a broad brush that unfavorably labels people. Right. I have lots of opinions on that, but I'm going to keep going. So let's talk about communication some more. Again, this isn't top down. This is all around. You need to repeat messages over and over and over. Now again, I'm going to talk about my world of banking, and as a compliance officer, we're extremely organized people. I can say, you know what, I know, Barry, I mailed you that email May 2nd of 2008. I still have the email if you'd like for me to send it to you again. Don't you remember? I told you that 11 years ago. I probably do have the email I mailed Barry. I keep stuff. I'm like a vault. And I know you opened it because I got the return receipt thing, so why don't you remember this? Because he's human. We need to remind people stuff over and over and over. Experts say 7 times. So I want you to all write this down if you would. Be a CRO. If you would, I'm going to give you a new title. You go, what's a CRO? It's a Chief Reminding Officer. Just see yourself that way. You need to remind people of stuff. And I do think this is maybe more of supervisory level, but you need to remind people over and over and over of things. This is how we're doing business, and this is what we're getting done. Has everybody got that? And in different mediums. Make sure you write that down. Different mediums. Don't just email people. Some people don't read well. Tell them. Some people don't hear well. Show it to them. Let them read it. Let them see it. Let them hear it over and over and over. Communicate. Be a chief reminding officers. This quote I wrote down in 2008. Winning organizations have a culture of communication. That's what I got out of interviewing all these presidents and CEOs. It is so absolutely true. Now, I have one more thing, and this is my behavior. I will give you that. As I teach this, I have some people that reel back a little bit. I absolutely believe in this next statement. I'd love to have you write this down. It is unfair to be unclear. It's unfair to be unclear. It's unfair to be unclear. Now, catch the next 3 lines. Say what you mean what you say, never say it meanly. Say what you mean what you say, never say it meanly. Like, I'm going to give you a moment here, but I absolutely drink this Kool-Aid. You can't have a right to be a jerk. That's saying stuff meanly. You don't have a right to be aggressive. You also don't have a right to be passive-aggressive. I can't read your mind. Right? One of the things I love about my wife when I first met, I think it was our second date, she said, I know you can't read my mind. And I was like, marry me. Because I was like, really, that's awesome that she gets that. I can't. In fact, you might have to hit me over the head with a 2x4 more than once, and I still may not get it. So say what you mean what you say. We're talking about don't be passive-aggressive, don't be aggressive, but that doesn't mean you get the right to do what you said, right? I want buy-in. I can only manage what I know. I need you to give me information. If I got to read between the lines, I'm probably not going to get it. So if everybody could operate in that world, that would be awesome. Back to winning organizations have a culture of communication, and this is a large part of it. Okay? Doesn't mean we have to be rude, and I could go off on a huge tangent about this. I don't have time, but about effective communication and how you don't want to be mean-spirited, but we don't want to have artificial harmony where you go, oh, that's a really good idea. That's so stupid. I can't. Oh, yes, that's one. No. So say what you mean when you say. All right, let's move to number 2. Gossip. Talking about unity, talking about enemies of unity, right? This is a killer. And it's just so common in our society today. It's something that we, even in the churches, say, oh, we need to pray for Barry. Why is that? Oh, I saw him down at the bar last night. And we do that in the churches even, which ought to be, I'm sorry, right. And you know what? There was a lady sitting next to him. You believe that? Right? And it wasn't Karen, his wife. Oh my gosh, can you all believe that? We need to be praying for him. And I'm not trying to attack the church. I'm just saying is, even in what the organization that should be above this is probably one of the worst ones. I don't know if any of you remember a guy named Dave Hesch. He was a pastor here in Central City. Dave was like my Paul, if you will, my mentor. He said to me once, kind of blew me away. He said, I wish everybody in my church would take up smoking. It's like, what? And quit gossiping. I was like, what? He said, smoking hurts them. I don't really wish that upon them. But gossip hurts the person they're talking about, the person they're talking to, and it hurts them, their soul. I thought that's pretty insightful. I'm going to take this to a different level. We all know gossip like that, where I'm going to talk about Rex and what's going on there, and I probably have no clue what's going on at Archer, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because that's what we do. Small towns especially, it seems like, right? And so I bet you're hearing all sorts of crap, right? With the last, yeah, okay, I'm the first, all right. But gossip is more than that. Check this out. My definition of gossip, actually this comes from Dave Ramsey. He says anything negative said to anybody that can't fix it. Now you can still do that I'm talking about Rex or I'm talking about Cody or I'm, things that I'm talking about people, but let me go to a different level. Let's say that Jared, one of our consultants, is having problems with his laptop. And he comes in and he's telling Mindy about this piece of equipment that the company bought for me. And you say, well, why didn't you call Cody or 5 Nines? You probably could have got this fixed. But that isn't, I'm sorry, that was supposed to be funny. Anyway, but the point is that he's complaining to Mindy, who has nothing to do with hardware purchases or computer IT stuff at our company. But he's just venting, you might say. What's he doing? He's telling Mindy this is an incompetent company, that I get issued bad equipment, and if I didn't have this, I probably could do so much more. And that seems very noble, doesn't it? He's saying something negative to somebody that can't fix it. You follow me? And you might go, Dave, that seems kind of harsh. Let me bring this another way. We pass praise all around. Every Monday morning meeting on the agenda, Mindy says, hey, what feedback did we all get last week that was awesome? And we pat ourselves on the back for being an awesome team. We do that and we go, yay! And we have a pep rally every Monday morning that says, we're amazing. In fact, when we don't have one, we're all like, somebody make up something, right? Because we can't have a meeting without some kind of praise. So we pass praise all around. It goes down. And Mindy, this person called in and said that you were awesome. And Jan and I got this comment from a customer that said you were amazing on the phone, right? We're going to pass that all around. But negatives need to go to the person that can fix it. Because if it goes anywhere else, what you're saying is, this is a bad place. I know that's a paradigm shift for a lot of you, yes? That's just not common. So if I'm having Jared complain to Mindy about his computer, what she should say is, Jared, I can't fix that. You need to go to Jamie, who takes care of those things. And if Jamie can't fix that, then it comes to me, and maybe it's, sorry, Jared, we can't afford a new computer. Deal with it. It might be, hey, stupid, if you just reboot once in a while or something, right? It could be that simple. It could be we need to call Cody and he can fix this for us. We can do those things, but if we are having negatives go any other way, and I'm going to give you a real life example. We had a consultant that just recently left us, and I'm still in my brain trying to figure out exactly what happened. But a couple months ago, she was complaining to another consultant on our team about our vacation policy. That consultant actually happened to be her supervisor in the sense of consulting, but not on vacation. Jamie is our human resource person, and I would be the people. If you have a problem with a vacation policy, you don't go to another consultant, you go to the human resource side. Do you follow what I'm saying? You might have a direct supervisor, but if you're talking about benefits, it probably isn't your direct supervisor. Do you follow me? In most corporations. Same thing here. So this consultant was talking to another consultant and saying, and this second consultant, her supervisor, got a hold of me and said, Dave, I don't know that this is fair. So I have another person on my team taking up somebody else's cause, if you will. Do you follow me? And now the second consultant is saying, I don't think this is right either. And it really was a misunderstanding, by the way. And the second consultant really didn't understand the first consultant's problem. So instead of the first consultant just coming to Jamie or to me and saying, here's my misunderstanding, we now have two people involved. And so when the second consultant gets a hold of me, the first thing I did was said, let's get a hold of Jamie because that's her department. So now there's three of us, and then we got the original person. Now there's four people talking about something that two people should have been talking about. You follow me? What a waste of time. What a cancerous thing that was going on. And I had to have a talk with them. We don't gossip. And that's gossip because you're saying something negative. Our vacation policy is bad to somebody that can't fix it. There's a real life example for you. Now, is not gossip very common in our society? It is prevalent, very bad. So how do you fix this? And I'm going to suggest if I could get you to do one thing out of this meeting, and this is it. If somebody says something, Rex, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. If somebody says, if you're talking to me and telling me something that I don't need to know or I can't fix, what I'm going to do is say, Rex, do I need to hear this? Physically, put up your hand and say that. It's probably, it might be a little offensive to, he might, well, I was just trying to vent. I know, but I don't think I need to hear that. If we could have the boldness to do that, I think we could make a difference in this world. And I'm going to move over to political line right now. Are you all not sick and tired of the whole Republican Democrats and fighting and everybody's just bashing? And there's this, if somebody does something, we have to squash them down. And our country is falling apart. And it's because of this. That it doesn't have to be real. I'll take a snippet of what Obama said and make him look like an ass. And I'll take what Trump said and make him look like an ass. And and go on and on and on. And you can have your own beliefs, but we sit and spew cancer about our leaders every day, all day long. And I'm sick and tired of it. So help me out, is what I'm saying. If I say something to you about some leader, you need to say, Dave, do I need to hear this? Because I got to be, right? I have to be reminded of it too. This is just so common. That's a big heavy, I know that. Talking about unity, this will cure unity. I got one more thing on this. If someone will gossip to you, they will gossip about you when you're not there, right? Why would you want to hang around with gossips? We don't allow gossip at our organization. We just prohibit it. And I've had to be reminded of it too. That's gossip. And we're just kind of a healthy place. We're not trying to be fake. It's not artificial. We're going to do praise. Now, there are negatives. We have negative stuff, but they get handled correctly. So if you have a negative, if Jared's having a problem with his computer, gosh, I don't want him to live with it. I want him to come and get it fixed. But who he tells that to, you follow me? That's what's important. So it's not that you can't have negatives. You're going to bump into people, especially if you're a get-it-done kind of person. You're going to run into things that frustrate you. It's actually pleasing to me to see people frustrated once in a while. That means they're trying to do more than maybe I can equip them with. That's awesome. They want to run faster than we can run. That's great. But they can't be telling other people that this is a bad place. That's my point. So I really hammer on these first two, communication and gossip, and the next three will go a little faster. Unresolved disagreements. If you deal with people, you're going to have issues, correct? Okay. One of probably the best things I've learned in life is not every hill is worth dying on. Right? So either let it go, man, or deal with it. So I'm just going to pick, let's just say Jamie comes into work 5 minutes late tomorrow. And I look at my watch and think, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's late again. But I don't say anything to her. Tomorrow, the next day, she comes in late, and I'm like, oh, that's 2 days in a row. But I don't say anything to her because I'm a wuss. Right? And I continue. What is it? This might be a 1 on my Richter scale of 1 to 10. But now it's a 2, and then it's a 5, and then it's a 9. And that fourth day, I go in there, I can't believe you've been late 4 days this week in a row. And she says, my car broke down. I'm having to ride my bike to work. I'm sorry. Or, right? Or I had to drop off the kid because my husband's in the hospital. Oh, I didn't know that, right? I mean, we can have stuff if we'll just go talk to people. And then I can go, oh. Or maybe she says, didn't we decide at the last meeting that I had some flex time? Yes, we did. Okay, right? The whole idea is deal with it. Go talk to them. If you let the sliver sit, it festers, right? And either, I don't mean bury the hatchet so you can pull it back out. It's bury the hatchet and be done with it. And if you can't do that, then go talk to people. We're talking about unity and killers of unity, right? So having some unresolved disagreement is amazing how much crap people bring up over time. Number 4, it's a lack of a shared purpose. If you're not familiar with Simon Sinek, go check him out, S-I-N-E-K. Number 2, he did a TED Talk called Getting to the Why. It really is just very common sense that people don't do things because they're told they have to, or they don't necessarily do the how to. If they understand the why, they'll buy into stuff and they'll say, I get it. And we have greater unity when people understand the why. What I'm getting at here is that you have some common goals, some common mission, common vision, common dream, and I'm going to go back to number 1, and you communicate it over and over and over. When people get that, they get the why. And they're just so much more unified. I can't tell Mindy and Shannon how to do their jobs. I don't even understand most of the stuff they do. But they understand what we're trying to accomplish, and they figure out how to do their job. And together, when they report things to me, I go, wow, I never thought of that. And they're like, yeah, this is a problem we have. And we get together and we explain, this is the mission. Yeah, Dave, we're trying to accomplish that, but here's this task that you don't understand. And I'm like, right, I don't. So we're going to be able to figure this out because they know where we're going. We don't do shotgun, we do laser beam, if you will. This is what we're doing. And my job is to make sure over and over and over that people understand this is where we're going. And the last one, this is kind of a hard one. It's called sanction incompetence. I recently came across this from these 2 management consultants. I love this. The culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. Isn't that true? If you hire a rock star and there's somebody performing down here, pretty soon the rock star says, why do I have to work so hard? I'll just perform down here too. It's a very common thing that happens in organizations. So, as a leader, and this would be leader, or really good accountability from teammates, but it's usually going to be more the leader, let me tell you a story of what happened to me. So I told you I was enlisted in the Army. I went to college and I got commissioned as a lieutenant. I came back in the military and I had a first sergeant who had actually been in Vietnam, and I think he was on 28 years. I'm on 3, okay? Technically, I outrank him. He has to salute me. Oh, I'm somebody important. I manage this guy. No, this guy could run circles around me. Yeah, he had to salute me. There's a hierarchy in the military. But he told me this my first day on the job. And he said, Dickinson, leadership is a series of difficult conversations. It's like, well, that's pretty cool. He wasn't done. Leadership is a series of difficult conversations. Leaders have them and cowards do not, was his next comment. I never wrote this down because it lasered into my brain. That is so true, is it not? For those of you that lead, how about as a parent or any organization, of having the guts to stand up and say, we need to talk about this. I can't coddle that anymore. I also have to be reminded of this. I won't tell you guys too much specifics, but a few months ago, Jamie came to my office. Jamie is our head of operations, and she said, how long are you going to coddle this? And then I knew exactly what she was talking about. It was a behavior of one of our teammates, and I needed to pick up the phone because it was starting to bother me, and Jamie could see that it was bothering me, so I'm really back to the previous one of allowing something to fester. That's tough. That's tough to do. I'm talking about leaders, and again, about unity, but everybody else on the team watches. And I'm going to pick on you here, but if you don't take care of this, then they start to perform at a lesser level. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. And there's disunity because, hey, you let that person get away with that crap. And that's really common. Now, let me go a step further with this. Every large problem was a small problem that you didn't deal with. that's not maybe 100% accurate, but when it comes to behaviors, it is. So every large problem was a small problem that a leader failed to address, and it just grew. So kind of take those last two. Again, I'm talking about unity. I'm going to go back to where I started, that this is not a checklist. This is a battle in the trenches every day. It isn't that we have some chamber banquet like this and talk and we go, okay, my culture's better. It isn't that you go out on weekend retreat and everybody loves each other and we sing Kumbaya by the fireplace. It's every day. This is the stuff that we do. Now, let me go back and repeat a little bit of this in the sense of why. What I have found, and research is showing, that if you work on culture, your organization just gets smarter. If there's better communication going on, if people are talking with each other, if we're not worried about gossip and all those things, then everything on that SMART formula that we talked about just goes up. It's a proven fact. Your company will get smarter. Number two, there's more to work than just work. If you're going to work to get the money so you can buy the car, so you can go to work so you can get the money to buy the clothes, so you can go to work to get the money to buy the food, do you follow me? Work can be a lot more fun. And if you love what you're doing, if you're having fun what you're doing, there's a lot more fulfillment in that, and that will lead to success in organization and culture. And I blew this. The third one is smarter. You'll get smarter. Let me try that again. The first one had to do with just more successful, that your company actually, bottom line statistics are showing that companies that have good cultures have better bottom lines. The smarter to me is that we just have better information exchange and things. So back to Drucker's that it eats culture, or culture eats strategy for lunch. What most leaders do, when I come in, I've had enough time now of working with some companies on this, and they buy into it and they say, okay, what's the return on investment? The first thing I answer them is, what's the cost? What's it cost to work on your health? And it's pretty hard to quantify that. Most of it's communication. But second, when they start to see things go south, then most leaders start to twist the dials on the C-suite. In other words, we got to spend more on marketing, or we got to do more on finance, right? And they go back to the things that they can quantify. You cannot quantify this very well, but there's enough research now that is showing it is. Last, I'm going to leave you with this joke, is that sometimes just team building exercises let you know that you're not on a very good team. That's supposed to be funny, so hopefully you get that. So let me do this. That's a thought to take in. It's tough to do. Talk to me. Questions, and not necessarily have answers to these things, but discuss this with me.